Hello, welcome to the Brain Scrub, a somewhat improvised approach to mental health. I'm your host, Glenn Sollers, and thanks for tuning in today. Today's topic is a topic that I haven't figured out yet, so hold on a second while I just check in with what's going on for me. Because I've been coming up with different ideas around what to talk about, and then I start recording my podcast, and then it's like, no, I screwed up. I don't know what to say here. So I tend to resort to my head a lot around what should I do, worrying about what am I going to say. And that's why this is an improvised approach to mental health, for me to deal with those little demons inside that say, Glenn, you have to think everything out in order to appear to be smart and intelligent in front of other people. You better plan and organize and do all that. And you know what? I'm not discounting the importance of planning and organizing. That is so critical in leading a structured and healthy life, that you get things done so you don't feel overwhelmed. And my goal in life is to become more chilled out, like relax, as you know. And so here I am in my head trying to consider, what am I going to talk about today? And let me just breathe in, drop into my heart. Wow, you know what just came up for me is love. Yeah. Love is quite something, actually. People try to define love, and I think the definition of love for me is a deep sense of connection to values, bodily connection, a physical connection, a feeling of when you hug it, you don't want to let go. And I'm grateful to say that with my wife, I have that connection. I don't want to let go. There's times where we might be sitting around at the dinner table and we're not talking about much, and then I feel, wow, what are we doing? We're kind of disconnected, but that's not love. Love is being able to experience someone and want to be around someone that brings out your true authentic self and enables your true authentic self to shine. And I am fortunate to have many friends that have those types of relationships where we can just be who we are. And there's nothing in my mind more fulfilling than being who you are, because that is the foundation of love, is self-love. Look in the mirror and say to yourself, while looking in your eyes, by the way, I love you. Just pause this podcast and just give it a go and really feel it. I love you. And to really consider what shows up when you utter those words. Some people have no problem doing it. Some people have a problem doing it, and some people just feel very awkward when they do it. However, I believe if you do not love yourself to your core, like you're happy with your existence, you're happy with who you are, you're happy with the life you created, you're not trying to pursue more and more and more material things, for example. Now, I believe the pursuit of self-awareness is really critical, because I know there's things within myself that I don't like. I love myself, but there's certain behaviors or expectations or pressures that I put upon myself that I don't like too much. And self-awareness is really critical in overcoming that so you can have greater self-love, which means I would be able to walk into any room and be able to just be with anybody there, and I wouldn't be judging myself in the moment. Now, I am not at all there yet. I'm getting there. It's funny, through my transition into team building, training, education, I started off very self-critical. And in fact, it didn't work out too well. But when I started coming to a place where I am just going to be okay being me. Of course, I'm being cautious with my words. I'm being very deliberate about what I'm saying. I'm having fun in the moment. I've started using the word I choose to do this versus I need to do this. I've been having greater success in really connecting with other people because I'm getting more and more comfortable in who I am, and now coming to a place of I have nothing to prove because I'm enough. I just can really connect with people when I'm being with them. And I'm part of a men's group, and this came to light for me a couple of years ago, where one of my good friends in this men's group. And the men's group is really a group of men who are very self-aware. We've been through the same sort of program in respect to personal development and self-awareness, that we're willing to call each other out on stuff. And that what came through in discussions and my work around clear beliefs coaching is that when I lead with my head, I'm dead. Okay, which means I'm not dying. Of course, we're all dying slowly, but it means that I stop conversation. I stop connection. I might as well be dead, right? There's nothing really going on there in respect to self-connection and connection with others. However, when I lead with my heart, I become part of other people. What I do now is I will intentionally, in moments of anxiety or frustration or things are not going the way that I expect them to go, I now breathe, I relax, and I deliberately go to my heart and say, now what? Which means I'm trusting my gut to lead me in the right direction. Because if I jump to my head and try to figure things out, it leads to worry. Like, our head likes to make up a lot of stories about what's happening or what's possible. We try to fortune tell and figure out what's going to happen in the future. We might bring our past experiences into the future with other people and say, well, this has happened before, it's going to happen again. And maybe it's we lost our job and we've lost jobs before in the past. And then we're looking forward and we think, oh my gosh, it's going to be so hard to find a job. And then actually it becomes hard to find a job because we have this belief it's hard to find a job. And this happens with most people out there, that we've had past experiences and those past experiences impact how we see the future. But if we can just stop in those moments and say, you know what, I'll be okay. I've always been okay. I've always made it through. I love myself. I love who I am, and not let these situations take away from that can go a long way, which means we just need to be grounded. This is not easy to do at all. There's times where I get super frustrated about something, and then I start doubting myself, and then I start labeling myself as a failure. But that's not self-love. If you love somebody, you're not going to call them a failure, but we can be so wicked and cruel to ourselves. Isn't it amazing how we can treat ourselves like garbage? And then we're trying to be nice to other people, and we are showing gratitude towards them and always have great things to say. But then when we look at ourselves and the way we treat who we are, it's disgusting what language can go on in our head about ourselves and who we are. But we are only living with ourselves. And yeah, other people live with us as well, and they have to bear the brunt of a lack of self-love or this frustration we may carry around, or personal stress. We have to endure that. Well, of course, we have a choice. We can leave the situation, say, I'm not going to deal with this anymore. However, if we don't love ourselves, if we don't feel positive about ourselves, if we don't focus on what can be done, and we focus on what has happened in the past, and this could happen again, and we worry about things, then we lose that presence that we can have with other people. Because our inner storm is creating storm around us. And if I can just really know that people are there for me, and I better be there for me as well, it will be harder if we don't have that to deal with things. Yeah, love. Love yourself. And how does one love themselves? Like, is there a trick to this? I don't know. I think the trick to self-love is, and this is just, again, my perspectives, is to really think about what you've done in your life. The experiences you've had, like doing a lifeline or an autobiography of your highs and lows and what you've been through in your life. And now, wow, look at you, you're alive, you're listening to this podcast, you made it this far. And to really examine what are those things that happen in my life, how did that get molded and sculpted into who I am today? And there's pros and cons. There's strengths, there's weaknesses. However, those experiences, bad or good, have made you the person you are today. And to really celebrate that, not to resent it or to get angry about it or to have regrets. I should have, I could have done this. And we talked about regrets in an earlier podcast. It's about, yeah, that all happened. And now what? Now what? What do I want to become? And this is another part of self-love, is to not get stuck in the label you put upon yourself. Maybe I'm unlovable, or I am negative, or I can't control my emotions, but to actually live into something that you want to become. Like, I want to be fun and goofy. Just even saying that. Like, I have this Post-it note on my monitor saying, you're fun, goofy, and you lead with your heart. And just every time I say that I want to be fun and goofy, I burst out into laughter. And laughter is so important in life. Yeah, don't be stuck where you were. Get unstuck and then figure out, well, what are you living for? What do you want to be like? Hey, you only have one life. This universe goes on and on and on and on and on and on. And it will go on for billions and billions of years. In fact, I just watched an episode on the black hole. It was a documentary, actually. And it's quite amazing how, like, the closest black hole, I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't really matter. It's like 25 million light years away. So the light that they've recently seen from this black hole is actually 25 million years old. Isn't that crazy how big this universe is? My point is that we are so tiny in this whole universe, and we have one life to live. And if you believe you're going to have a second life, that's great. And I wish I had that belief, because then facing death must be so much easier if you know that you're going to go to a better place. Oh, yeah, that would be such a strong belief. I wish I had that belief. But for me, I believe that we live once, and for sure our body, because we're 90% water, 70% water, that's going to feed into plants and leaves. You can't destroy water. So we're going to continue, but we're not going to have this cognitive brain, this brain that can think and has stories and situations and whatever. We just become atoms, and we are atoms, actually. And then we get released into the earth or into the sky, and then we become part of the world that we live in again, not as a person in a skin bag, but actually as a dispersed set of molecules and atoms all over the world. Here I go. I'm trying to sound like a scientist, and I don't sound like one at all. I'm probably totally mixing up my the scientific terms, and that's okay. You get the picture, right? And so you have this finite amount of time in this life, and then you die, and I don't know what happens. However, what do you need to do to love you and be the best you possible so life is a fun experience, not an experience where you're waiting until I retire and then I'm going to have fun in my life? No, you never know. You could get some sort of disease and retire early due to death. And I certainly hope that doesn't happen, but I've heard these stories and it freaks me out that this happens. That's why my whole thing about life is live now. Don't dream big, live big. Because dreams may one day come real. Or they may not. But if you can live the best life possible now through great self-love, which allows you to bring in the love of others so you don't become needy, people are attracted to that. Like you have this gravitational force. And this is what I learned about a black hole. I did not know this, but a black hole actually has so much gravity. It's so strong that it sucks things into it. And it gets sucked in. Could you imagine love like a black hole? That you just attract all this positive energy, positive relationships, love from others because you are love. Folks, love yourself. And then love will come your way. Love, love me do. You know I'll be true. I'll always love me because ooh, do 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 do, love me do 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 do. Thanks for tuning in.